Hi, I'm Daisy, and welcome to another one of my videos where I take a look at all the new comic books coming out on either February 15th or 16th, 2022, and I ask myself the question, what one new comic book would I buy this week if I could buy just one book?
What's going on in here?
Uh-oh.
Well, it looks like Daisy has already taken care of the introduction to this video this week. She's going to take a little break from the rest of the video. I think we're going to have a little chat. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and move forward with the rest of this video. Let's start off by taking a look at my pick from 2 weeks ago, which was The Amazing Spider-Man, issue number 88. And the question remains, was it a worthy and worthwhile pick to be my just one book pick of the week? And the answer is, yeah, it was. So, I kind of stupidly didn't bother even adding this to my poll at my LCS. I was under the impression that every time I go out to the comic book shop, no matter how much potential there is in an Amazing Spider-Man book, there's always copies on the shelf. People order a lot of copies of Amazing Spider-Man because, I mean, come on, it's Spider-Man. I figured I'm going to have no problem going to comic shops and picking up this book if I go right when they open. And I did. I went to several comic shops from the time that they opened, like to the minute, to like the first 15 minutes after they were open. And let me tell you something, this book was sold out everywhere. Everybody saw the Queen Goblin spec coming, and they all did the smart thing and added it to their poll. Not me, not this guy. I assumed I could find it. Never gonna make that mistake ever again. If there's a book I want and I know about it in advance, I'm gonna add it to my poll. I recommend you do the same. I was fortunate enough to find a shop that was still had copies of this 15 minutes once again after they opened, only because they were limiting sales to one per customer. And I'm sure it was sold out within the first hour that this shop was open. But I did get a copy of it, I did read it, and I really did enjoy it. Now, the Queen Goblin seems like a character that could have potential long term. I'm not quite sure. We'll have to see about that. So it's good to have this book and just kind of hold on to it and see what's going to happen with the Queen Goblin. This book was selling for about $15 at one point. It's now gone down to about $10. You can even find it still for a little bit less than $10. That's obviously before tax and shipping. So this book is not like blown up as far as value is concerned, but maybe it'll have value down the line. One thing I will say though is that the read of this story has been interesting. It's interesting to me what's happening with Ben Reilly. Now I don't want to get too deep into it because I don't like to get into spoilers, but there's some stuff that's going on with him that I'm just kind of like, well, that's interesting. Is it interesting enough for me to start picking up Amazing Spider-Man on the regular? No, I can't get past the fact that this book comes out like 3 times a week. And I don't even think that's factoring the .BEY issues of this book. So there's just a lot of Spider-Man coming out so consistently. I just can't bring myself to add it to my poll. But I hope, I'm glad I did pick this one up. It was worth checking out. I hope you had the opportunity to get it yourself and read it and that you enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments how your experience went with getting this book if you have an interesting story to tell about it. All right, let's go ahead and move forward and take a look at the books that are coming out this week. Now I'm going to tell you right off the bat, this is not the best week for comic books. We've had some really awesome and exciting weeks over the past several weeks, and this week is not one of them, not at all. So I'm going to be playing a little fast and loose with the format, as I do from time to time in these videos, because there's stuff I want to talk about, and I'm just coming up with creative ways to format it. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the first book I want to talk about, which is getting a mention. I usually start off with honorable mentions. This one for me is just a mention. And I'd like to mention to you Iron Fist issue number 1 from Marvel Comics. Here's how the description begins. Who is the new Iron Fist? Well, that's it. That's all description you need to know. That's basically what is of value to this book. It's going to tell us who the new Iron Fist is. Now, I have heard that it could be Swordmaster. I've heard it could be Swordmaster's brother. Frankly, I'm not particularly interested in the character of Iron Fist, and I don't really care who the new Iron Fist is. Now, if I was a big Swordmaster fan, or if I had Swordmaster spec, I might be interested in knowing what they were doing with the character. If I was a big Iron Fist fan, I might be interested in knowing what they're doing with the character. I'm not particularly a fan of either characters, so I'm not particularly interested in the new Iron Fist. Now, this could have spec potential down the line. There's always a possibility that the Iron Fist character gets put into the MCU, and it's this version of Iron Fist, which would make this book have value as a long-term spec, which is why I give it a mention this week. But I was almost about to not mention this book at all, just because I'm personally not interested in it, but that might be a mistake on my part. So I figured it was at least responsible for me to let you know that this book is coming out this week and why it's potentially relevant. If there is something about Iron Fist and this new Iron Fist title that I am completely missing the boat on, please let me know down in the comments. Please encourage me to pick up this book if you really think I'm stupid for not giving it its just desserts. So let's go ahead and move forward with the next book that I want to mention, this is an honorable mention. My first honorable mention is The Lion and the Eagle from Aftershock Comics. This is issue number 1. Here's the description. Oversized prestige format miniseries from the mind of Garth Ennis. 1944, Imperial Japan still commands most of Asia. Determined to regain their hold on Burma, the British send a special forces unit, the Chindits, deep behind Japanese lines. Their mission is to attack the enemy wherever they find them. What awaits them is a nightmare equal to anything the Second World War can deliver. Colonel Keith Crosby and Dr. Alistair Whittemore have old scores to settle, being veterans of the long retreat through Burma 2 years before. But neither the jungle nor the foe have gotten any less savage, and when the shooting starts and the Japanese descend on the smaller British force in their midst, every man will be tested to his limit. Writer Garth Ennis and artist P.J. Holden present a tale of hellish jungle warfare, as apparently civilized human beings descend into an apocalyptic heart of darkness. Okay, and the first thing I want to make sure to make clear, this is an oversized prestige format. It is a $7.99 book, so it is more expensive. That being said, I actually think that format may suit this story really, really well. And for me, this sounds to be all about story. These war stories can be really, really awesome, and not for everybody. But if you're a kind of a war story kind of person, this one sounds pretty awesome, and I would recommend checking it out this week. The next book I want to mention to you is another new book. This one is called Quad, issue number 1 from Behemoth Comics. Here's the description. In the last decades of the 21st century, a massive solar storm hit planet Earth, destroying all technology in its way. Global communications were lost, nuclear reactors collapsed, the climate suffered the worst drastic changes, and financial systems were gone. The survivors had to adapt to the harsh new reality. New societies were built over the ruins of those that crumbled. 4 generations have passed. The mechanic, Tara, and her black cat, Elvis, accept a quick and simple repairing job in the middle of nowhere. There's something odd about this job. It's never really simple. Okay, why this book? Well, post-apocalyptic stories I find interesting. They can be really bad, but they can also be really, really good. And there's something just about the vibe that I'm getting off of the covers for this book that makes me think that this one does have potential. Now, this is written and the art is also done by the same person, Eduardo Schall. I don't know the name off the top of my head, but I think that that's interesting when one person has a complete creative control and vision for a story. Now, sometimes artists aren't the best writers, sometimes writers aren't the best artists. This might be one of those cases, but like I said, I do see the potential there. So similar to how the first book, if you're into war stories, this next one, if you're into post-apocalyptic stories, it might be one you consider checking out this week. The next book I want to mention to you is Until My Knuckles Bleed, issue number 1 from Behemoth Comics. Here's the description. From the creator of the best-selling comic Polar, now a Netflix hit movie starring Mads Mikkelsen, comes a new creator-owned series. A tale of crime and capes in the style of The Boys, Watchmen, and Sin City. The 90s were the most extreme age of the superheroes, but times have changed. Gavin Hart, aka Damager, now works as a bouncer in a strip club managed by the Russian mob, hangs out sporadically with his ex-Avenge lady, and wrestles with the long-term effects of his cyber implants. But fate always keeps one last cheap shot up its sleeve for a hero. All right, well, this sounds like a cool concept, especially when you evoke titles like The Boys, Watchmen, and Sin City. Now you're getting my attention with that. I also think the character design of this main character on the covers here, it's interesting to me. I think he looks pretty cool. Simple, but interesting, and somebody that I want to know more about. I kind of also like the idea of a time when the age of heroes is bygone. That people are kind of over the need for superheroes, and they're kind of relegated to an average or ordinary existence. I think that could be pretty cool. So this is, if you like, it's the first one, if you like war stories, pick up that one. The second one, if you like post-apocalyptic stories, pick up that one. This one, if you kind of like superhero stories, especially superhero stories that are more kind of grounded, I suppose, this might be one for you to consider checking out this week. All right, the next thing that I want to mention, because as I mentioned before, I am playing fast and loose with the format this week. And the first way I am doing that is with this next section. My next honorable mention is not so much an honorable mention for a book. It's an honorable mention for a publisher. Second Sight Publishing has a ton of new titles coming out this week. They're either one-shots, or they're issue number 1s of limited series, or they're issue number 1s of ongoing. There's so many of them, and I found that so noteworthy that I thought I would take a moment to go ahead and list all of them. So here we go, and I'm going to feature one of them at the end. They have new books coming out like Athena, the Undying. They have Freak Show Kingdom, The Horn Island Trilogy, Ironhead, Orison, Silence, These Damn Kids, and the book that I want to mention to you, give a little extra special attention to from them, which is The Last Days of Us, Forsaken. Issue number 1 of a 6-issue limited series, once again from Second Sight Publishing. Here's the description. London, 1883. For Vita Gemintis and the Order of the Golden Lance, what begins as another magically fueled murder investigation soon turns into a race against time to prevent a dark wizard from summoning Abaddon, the Angel of Death, to our realm. So that sounds pretty cool. I'm interested in magically fueled murder investigations. I'm interested in the summoning of Abaddon, the Angel of Death, by a dark wizard. From time to time, I enjoy a little bit of fantasy, and this is gonna check the fantasy box, it appears. So this week, with the first 4 books that I really feature, we're getting, war stories. We are getting post-apocalyptic stories. We are getting superhero stories, and now we are getting fantasy stories. So with these first 4 books, there is something, I believe, for every type of comic book reader. So maybe one of these 4 books is something that you consider checking out this week. All right, as a segue to the final section, once again, I'm playing fast and loose with the format this week. I want to let you know the books that I am pulling this week. Now, I'm going to be pulling Primordial issue number 6 from Image Comics. I've been enjoying Primordial. This is the last issue of that. I'm also picking up A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance, issue number 5. That's really been an interesting one as well. And actually, I thought it started off as a limited series, but currently it's slated as an ongoing. And I'm not mad about that because I have been enjoying it. I have 3 more books that I will be buying this week, and I'm about to mention them in the next section of this video. Now, usually, this is right about where I give you my just one book pick for the week. This week, I am going to be doing a just one writer pick for this week. All right, so with that comes the return of a feature that we've had before on these videos, but we haven't had it in a while. Kate's Corner. Yes, it is the return of Kate's Corner. Donny Cates is my just one writer pick for this week. Now, playing fast and loose with the format within the format, I'm going to start off quickly by mentioning a book that Donny Cates used to write, which is Venom issue number 5. The description is really short. It simply says, if you thought the first 4 issues of the latest volume of Venom were crazy all-out action, just wait until you get a load of this one. In this issue, Al Ewing returns to the pages of Venom, and he's brought answers to your questions with him. I'm buying Venom this week. This might be the last issue of Venom that I pick up. I haven't loved it. Al Ewing and Ram V wrote the first issue. Then Ram V wrote 2, 3, and 4. Now Al Ewing is returning for issue number 5. They have kind of brought us a new symbiote. I believe the name is Behemoth. I don't know if I'm being thrown off by that information by the fact of, I think I mentioned Behemoth Comics, the publisher, earlier in this video. But there is a new symbiote that we've been seeing on the pages of Venom, but people aren't really talking about it. I don't know if people are a little burnt out on symbiotes. It's possible. But anyways, with the return of Al Ewing, I'm interested to see exactly what's going to be happening with this next issue. I think it will be a make it or break it issue for me and my reading of it. And I just kind of wanted to mention it to you. Might be something worth at least having on your radar and knowing about. But back to books that Donny Cates is actually writing currently. The first one I want to mention to you is Thor, issue number 22 from Marvel Comics. Here's the description. God of Hammers, part 4 of 5. To stop the deadly path of the Mjolnir-wielding God of Hammers, all of the Marvel Universe must come together. The final battle is here, but will Thor's allies survive the hammer blows? Thor turns to an unexpected source to help ensure victory. Okay, I talked about this Thor book a lot in these videos. I've talked about issues number 20 and 21 recently, and now I'm talking about issue number 22. Frankly, if you are a regular watcher of these videos, and thank you, if you are, and you aren't reading Thor, I'm not going to be able to say or do anything that's going to convince you to pick it up. I don't think that this book is going to have the same spec potential that issues number 20 and 21 had, but it's just been so enjoyable to read. I say it every time I talk about Donny Cates. He always gives me these oh wow moments in his comic books. And I appreciate it so much. I appreciate having an actual reaction to something that I see, like, ooh, excitement, or just like, it blows my mind or something. Just some actual natural reaction instead of just flipping through and going, oh, okay, that was great. Donny Cates does that for me. And Donny Cates has done that for me in the pages of Thor over and over and over again. So, I mean, this is a book that's had spec potential in waves, and some people can say that the spec from this book, Black Winter, has come and gone. Other people are like, Donny Cates doesn't do anything on accident. He doesn't just kind of do something and forget about it. He's always building an overarching, larger narrative, and I think that's more accurate. So I highly recommend Thor for everybody. Even if you haven't been buying it up until now, I mean, I don't think there's a bad time to jump on. This is part 4 or 5 of the story, so maybe you wait until issue number 24 to jump on. I actually think that's going to be an anniversary issue as well. I'm not quite sure if I remember that correctly. But it's just really good and worth checking out. And so in a week that's otherwise kind of lackluster, nothing really jumping out at me, I had to share once again my excitement for Thor with Thor issue number 22. And the last book that I want to mention this week, which is another Donny Cates book. Once again, Donny Cates is my pick for this week. So either Thor or this book are equal in their worthiness as a pick. The next book I want to mention to you is Hulk, issue number 4 from Marvel Comics. Here's the description. Smastronaut, part 4 of 6. As the mystery behind the Hulk's shocking new status quo deepens, Banner has piloted the Starship Hulk to an alternate Earth, one where Thunderbolt Ross is president, and he has an army of gamma-powered monsters under his command. Get ready for a surprise-filled all-out brawl that only the insane minds of Donny Cates and Ryan Ottley can bring you. This is another book, once again, that if you have been watching my videos regularly, and once again, thank you so much if you have been. If you haven't started picking up this book already, I don't know what I'm going to say to convince you to do it. All I can say, once again, is I am not a Hulk guy. Hulk as a character is cool. Hulk as a character is fine. But picking up a Hulk title is not something that comes naturally to me. I picked up this book for Donny Cates, expecting to pick up issue number 1 and drop it immediately. But Donny Cates delivers. This book is so over the top in its own fantastic way. Donny Cates is somebody who, when he writes a comic book, he writes a comic book. He doesn't hold back. He doesn't be like, well, this is ridiculous. No, he thinks this is going to be amazing. This is going to be awesome. This is going to be badass. This is going to be sick, he probably says. I'm going to put it in. And that has really been a joy for me in reading this Hulk comic book. Hulk is an over-the-top character and an over-the-top narrative that pushes the boundaries of like logic or just kind of like understanding. It's just been really, really entertaining and really, really fun. And as much as sometimes I want to have a feeling, from a comic book, be it like, that's awesome, or be it, oh wow, or be like, oh no, or be like, oh my God. That was a lot of emotions to go through. Sometimes I just want a comic book to be fun, just fun and entertaining. And so far, Hulk has been very, very fun. The story has been fun, the story's been interesting, and also coming down the line, I mean, this is not the last time you're going to hear me talking about Hulk. I promise you that. With the Black Hulk, Black Hulk. I think they're kind of referring to him as. I think they might have even given him a name as Titan, I believe. Let me know down in the comments if I have that incorrect. There is a future in the spec potential of this title as well. But the spec potential aside, the story has been so much fun, so entertaining. Donny Cates really does a great job. There was a time, I'm going to say one last thing. There was a time early on in the making of these videos where Donny Cates was my favorite writer, and James Tynion was a close second. And then James Tynion surpassed Donny Cates for me. James Tynion is my favorite writer. But Donny Cates and James Tynion IV are so different. They're like flip sides of the same coin. They're both so good, but they're so different. So as much as I love James Tynion IV, I also love Donny Cates, but for completely different reasons. And because I love him so much, and I continue to be impressed by the work that he does that I read from him, that is why Donny Cates is my Just One Writer pick for this week. All right, well, that's the video. I hope you don't mind so much how much I played with the format. I did a lot this week, but basically I wanted to feature these books and I tried to come up with a way to do that. If you liked the information I provided, likes are appreciated by me. Hit that like button, please. If you haven't subscribed, I invite you to subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell. I do have some Test Your Comic Book Grading Skills videos that are going to be coming over the next few weeks. I like that content a lot. I hope you do too. I don't think you're going to want to miss them. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.